Hello and welcome to Code Club. My name is Jesse Rogers, and today I wanted to talk about expectations. So, one of the things that people get very discouraged about is that as they put in more time, they expect for their ability to improve along with that. So, if we just mark this as our expectations, that is pretty much how people think it's going to go. But if you think about learning a new language, let's put it in context of, the first day, maybe you just know one word and you feel good about just being able to acquire one word for the day, right? And then the next day, let's say, learn another word. And so now you actually doubled your vocabulary, but that's not still enough words to really be able to do anything with, right? Now you've only got two words, even though you doubled your vocabulary. And the next day you could double again. Maybe you learn four. Now you have a vocabulary of four words because you've learned two more words. So you're doubling each day, and that's really fantastic. But there's not much you can do with four words, right? So what you end up doing is building up a repository of knowledge very quickly in exponential terms. So it looks kind of like this, but it's still very low in absolute terms. So you're not really able to do much with it. You can't hardly communicate with anybody when you only know a couple words. And it's like that with programming languages too. When you're first learning to program, you're not going to be able to solve very many problems. And the problems you are able to solve are going to be so trivial, it feels absurd to think that you're ever going to get anywhere with it, but you do, and you have to give yourself that time. And so most people give up during this discouragement phase right here, where your progress is far below what you're feeling like you should be doing uh, based on how much time you're putting into it. So for me, I was coding pretty much every day, probably for about 6 months and I was going through tutorials and I was, trying to solve practice problems, and I was really going at it for, like I said, 6 months before I started to put the pieces together in a way where I could feel confident about solving even simple problems. So, I'm talking about like reversing a string. Like I was confused about very, very simple things. And it took me longer than you would think. And part of that is because I was doing it on my own. I wasn't doing it in association with a class or with a group. And so that's part of why I wanted to make Code Club in the first place, because I know that this is a really challenging project to try to learn to program, even under the best circumstances. And so I think the peer support will go a long way. And also, I think being able to understand expectations is part of that, because when I was younger, this is not actually my first attempt at trying to learn programming. I tried when I was 15 in a programming magnet school, actually. And I started um, pretty good. I mean, I was doing well in my classes, but it was much harder for me than my other classes. And if it was difficult, then I thought back then that meant maybe you're better at suited to something else. If something's really difficult, then, maybe that's not the field for you. And so, because that was my belief, I gave up on programming way too soon. I didn't give myself that time to get through that discouragement phase. And now later in life, I realize that that's, my earlier view, that fixed mindset is not correct at all. It's more of the more practice you get, the better you get. And so just put in lots of practice, make lots of mistakes. That's how you get good. And it doesn't matter how anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter if it comes more easily for them. In fact, let's go ahead and put that on this exponential curve. Let's suppose that there's somebody for whom this stuff comes really quickly, and maybe they're on this kind of a curve, and then um, there's somebody else who takes more time, and maybe they are on this kind of a curve. Now, notice you can see this with the green curve. I'll just zoom in, uh, uh, put your attention on where the green curve and the pink curve cross. And I want to make the point that the person in pink here was learning more quickly, right? They were sufficient to pass the test. Let's say that that black line right there, that straight line, is what's needed to pass the test for a course. And maybe that person's able to do what's needed for the course, but very often that kind of um, develops a level of shallow learning. And that's what happened to me too. I was able to do well in most of my classes. I was able to do well in a pretty short amount of time, and then I didn't go much deeper. And I didn't do all the homework. I didn't study to the maximum. I just sort of did what was necessary to get a good grade, and that was it. A or B would do. And I just didn't put much effort in back then. And what ended up happening is that the people who took longer but really put their back into it, those folks would vastly exceed the level of proficiency that I would have in certain subjects because they kept with it. And it's not just how quickly you learn something, it's also how much dedication and practice you put into it. And so um, that is something that I would urge both people who get things quickly and people who take a longer time to learn things to understand that it benefits everybody to get more practice. And just because you get something quickly, that doesn't mean that you're going to be a pro at it. You still have to do all that deep work that everybody else has to do if you want to really become proficient at it. So now at this phase of my life, I know it takes a lot of practice, and that's what I am using Code Club and Code and Game to do. So Code and Game is something that we're going to talk about a lot in Code Club. It's something that we're going to be practicing on together and trying to solve the puzzles. And hopefully, even if you're not where I work at Palm Beach State College and part of our code club, hopefully, if you're just watching this on YouTube, you're also going to benefit from this. And maybe you can find a group of friends that you get interested in it. It's a great program, and programming in general is just so much fun once you really learn it, and you can do so much with it. It's getting incredibly powerful because especially the Python language is what artificial intelligence is routinely done in. Data science there's a lot of packages for that as well. And so Python is a really, really popular language for these growing fields. And more, it's just becoming expected that if you're going to be in any decision-making capacity, that you're going to need to have uh, a background in programming. So whether you're doing engineering or business or whatever it is, programming helps you to be more effective at these tasks. And so it's definitely something that you should be learning. Make sure you subscribe, like this video. I'll see you in the next videos, and we'll help you get there.